Some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist. I wondered what would change. I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
County, what you doing? It's happy Halloween. It is officially Halloween today. And you know what's that significant of Halloween is to me, that tomorrow it's November. I'm like, oh my goodness. I gotta start getting my Thanksgiving meal together and all of those things. So that's the significance of Halloween for me. Hey, Senator Kerry Roberts is in the house. Oh, by the way, this is 1100 WSGI. I'm Utah Laverne. This is One Street Over, a chance for us to, if you've been here for a while, get to know what's going on one street over from where you're living. That's our goal here on this program every morning, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. And you know who we have to blame for what we're doing here? This man right here. It was his idea to do this thing and or to get me in here, because you were, let's just full disclosure here, you were doing a show one day a week, right? Were you doing just one day a week? And whenever Dick
Monday
Beach,
mornings,
Dick Beach was doing the other 4 days,
right?
And then he left, and so you said, oh, y'all need to call Laverne, and well, there you go, and here I am. So. But and
it's worked out great. How long have you been doing this now?
3 years, I think.
3 years.
You
wow.
made me look and see. I'm driving my friend's car, and I'm trying to make sure I don't lose my key. I had to borrow. It's a long story. I saw your car key, and I was like, okay, is that Brett's key or is that my key?
You can't have that one. No.
Okay. No. So this will be probably 3 years. I think about 3 years. Yeah. Coming up on my third or maybe fourth year anniversary.
I
honestly, I'm not. I've kind of lost track.
Yeah, I sort of miss it. I sort of don't.
Yeah.
I've gone. I've given new meaning to the word radio silent because I've gotten off social media.
Yeah.
Gotten off the radio. And I stay out of trouble a lot more.
Yes. I get that. Well, I'm not prone to sticking my foot in my mouth because I'm staying out of politics these days. So, except when I have folks like you and John Rose and those guys in. And
I'll go easy on you.
Yeah, there you go. Sabi Kumar saw me the other day I was at the recovery court graduation. He goes, "We've been missing you." And I said, "God says I don't have to do that no more." And I said, I'm not, and that doesn't mean that I'm not involved. I have not voted yet, and I've got to because, I've just
early voting ends.
It's already done.
Early voting ends this week. Today is, I think.
That's right. That's right. I heard the news. We get to early vote through Thursday. So I think I never early vote, but I probably will this time.
I have to. I'm going to be out of town on election day.
We'll see. And I may be working the CMAs. That's so funny. Last night I said, Kerry, are you going to be there? And he's like, well, and you were at the memorial for Loretta Lynn last night.
Right.
So very late
She
night.
was a constituent.
Yeah, absolutely. And and my husband and I were working at the CMAs because we've been doing setup. Our friend Mark Carver is an amazing lighting person, and he hooked us up to help with the lighting years ago, just to make some extra income. And we don't necessarily have to do it anymore. At the time,
It's
it was
just
a
fun.
very
Yeah.
it really is, and we love those guys. And we work for the stagehand union for 10 days a year, and I'm not going to get to do much of it this year because I'm a teacher, and so I can't be up all night and go teach. I was last night. I got a couple hours sleep, but I can't do that and teach. But Mark's taking vacation, and so he's going to represent the Vivievs. But we're probably going to things because you figure the schools are closed election day. So I was talking to the stewards last night, and I said I could probably work Tuesday if you got room for me. So I may be working because we get to hear the whole show all day because it's rehearsals. And so I heard Miranda Lambert do her set probably 15 times last year because we were there the day of rehearsals. And it's fascinating. It really is to watch the whole show come together. It's so much fun. So I've got to vote early. That's the bottom line. So anyway, Crooked Eye Tommy. Hey, buddy, what is up? Tommy Marsh, congratulations. He won a Josie. He won an award at the Grand Ole Opry like last week, was it, Tommy? But yeah, he's a big deal now. He already was. Have you met Tommy? He's one of your constituents. You need to. He's here in the county. He moved here from California a couple of years ago, and he's a blues guy. And he has a real job, but he plays blues and plays it very well. And he's the one who put on the blues festival at the fairgrounds. So he's a good guy. You need to meet him.
There's a lot of people like that. Diane and I were talking last night that there are a lot of people that we were in the friends and family line, which a lot of friends, a lot of family. So
Right.
it was that filled about the bottom of the Grand Ole
Right.
Opry. And I told her, we used to have a bike store in Brentwood, and I told her, I said, I see a lot of people that are recognized from the bike store, and I just didn't realize they were in the music.
Right.
That they were somehow connected to all this.
Right.
And I think that's true. A lot of people, when you meet them in Springfield, Tennessee, or at Kroger, at Walmart, or whatever, they don't go, oh, I'm in the music business. And I mean, so a lot of times, even when you ask, they just say something different.
There's people I've gone to
I got a
church
farm.
with.
Yeah.
There's people I've gone to church with for a long time. And Roger Ball. And I saw him, I've known him forever. And saw him playing at the, what's the place where Lee Marie goes all the time and dances? And I can't think of the name of it, but it's Murph's Barn. And they have the Starlighters there, and he's one of the Starlighters. And I'm like, I didn't know you did that. Oh, not only, he's toured with everybody. He's fabulous. And I was blown away and did not know he did that. And so I'm fascinated by the people who are in the business that just kind of keep it under their hat. They just like, oh yeah, that's what I do because it's Nashville. So it's cool. So
I'm just not a big concert venue.
So
I grew up being musical. I thought
Yeah.
about being a professional musician, and
Yeah.
I was a trumpet player and a very good one. But once I kind of left that life, I left it, and there's not a lot of work for trumpet players in Nashville, Tennessee.
that's great.
If you live in New York or Los Angeles, it's great, but
Yeah, not around here so much. Well, see, that's when I was in Kentucky as a child. I wanted to be the next Tanya Tucker. I wanted to come to Nashville and sing on the Grand Ole Opry. That was my childhood dream. But oh well. Senator Kerry Roberts is in the house, and I tell everybody it takes us 10 minutes to say hi. That's about right. It's about 7:08. We're talking about things going on in the state. Again, he was at the memorial for Loretta Lynn last night. I was at the CMA. CMAs are coming up a week from Wednesday, and it's fabulous. It's always so much fun to see the show come together. And if you have questions for the senator, all you got to do is put them in comments, and I will share them with him. And he's going to come in. You know, you're getting the radio bug now, so you're going to come in once a month with us.
No, you got the Janet bug. You just figured out how to get me scheduled.
There you go. I talked to his
Hey, look at that.
assistant, and oh my goodness.
There you go. There's your picture for you. So
Who is that?
that would be Tanya Tucker.
That's Tanya?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I mean I wouldn't have known her.
Yeah.
Turn that around again. Wow. Cause see, I'm. How long ago did you take that? Because honestly, she's changed a bit. But yeah, she looks great. But no.
2015.
Oh wow.
So
yeah, she's
yeah.
changed a bit. But yeah, I didn't
Well,
recognize
I mean,
her.
she's dressed in street clothes, not
True.
sequins and
Yeah.
and doesn't have a
Yeah,
hat
yeah.
on. And
Yeah.
I mean, usually, like last night, she sang with a hat on. And,
Oh, was she there?
yeah.
Okay. Well, and I followed her as a child. Not so much as I got older. So
So-
I haven't stayed up to date on.
Okay, you want to hear about last night?
Yes,
You wanna
tell
hear?
me,
Okay.
tell me.
So the people who performed were Alan Jackson.
Oh wow.
Sang a song that he wrote after his mom passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan, when we lived down in Brentwood, I jokingly say he was my neighbor because he was not my immediate neighbor, but he lived half a mile down the road from us.
Gotcha.
And he was always super, super friendly. He is a car guy, and he would frequently, I'd be out on my bike ride because I was, bike racer, and I would ride by his house, and it just seemed like plenty of times he was pulling out, and he'd always smile and wave. He always wore a baseball cap, never wore a cowboy hat. But he had some health issues of his own, and so it was good to see him out. And George Strait sang. Tim McGraw, Faith Hill made an appearance. They made comments and introduced people. Same with Barbara Mandrell, Martina McBride. And I had to laugh later. I looked on Twitter at, just hashtag Loretta Lynn, and the prevalent comment was, wait, the queen of country music, and it's all these men singing songs. So it was George Strait, Alan Jackson, Jack White of the White Stripes.
Well, they were
Brought
tight.
the house down
Oh, they were tight.
with his version of Ann Lear Rose.
Oh.
It was possibly, if you look at Twitter, that was probably the best performance of the night.
My cousin's his stylist, or one of them, and she just.
I'm just telling you, I leaned over, I told Diane, I said, if he would do that, if he would get dialed in on that song and do that live and put it out, it reminds me of Janis Joplin's live version of Bobby McGee. He's
amazing. He is amazing. I never discovered him.
I couldn't tell you any other song he does. I've heard the name, and I probably know some of their music, but
he's very eclectic. But my cousin, who's named Loretta Lynn Harper, has the House of Harper, and she does a lot of styling for him. And I just never really paid any attention to him until it was like, oh, Loretta's doing that, So I was like, wow, he's good. And him and Loretta Lynn had a tight relationship. Yeah.
They played he filmed her. He went out to Hurricane Mills to her house, and they just did some stuff and playing, and he filmed her when he was out there. He was smart enough and wise enough to take a camera with him, and had accompanied her on her guitar. Her guitar always said Loretta Lynn on it, and while she sang her song, it was great. Let me see. I can't think of their name. The tall, curly-headed blonde girl. Three names in the Little Big Town.
Oh yeah.
Pathetic, isn't
Little
it?
Big Town.
Little Big Town. They had video from Dolly Parton, from Taylor Swift, from Miranda Lambert. Some girl, I have no idea who she is. I leaned over and asked Diana, I said, who's that? And she said, I don't know. And but obviously everybody else knew who she was. And so a lot of performances, and I'm leaving out a lot of people, but it was about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I thought it was odd because Jenna Bush, George Bush's, Junior's daughter, was the host, and her cohort on the morning show, whatever her name is. Hoda? Is it Hoda? Hoda?
I have no idea.
Whatever.
I don't pay any attention to it.
I can't remember whether I don't watch any. I don't watch any
of that.
morning TV at all. And I tell you what, it was really neat. The tributes were great, but what meant the most to me was at the very end, her daughter came out, Patsy, and granddaughter Taylor Lynn came out, and they both made comments. And Taylor's comment was, she said, basically my best memory of Loretta is that she showed me Jesus. You know,
wow.
she led me to a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I just thought, and you're going to go to CMAs, and there's a lot of secular stuff that goes on, which is fine. I mean, it's just the world in which we live. But it's great when somebody, I mean, we are created by a creator for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And it's we're 90 minutes into something, and no one has acknowledged their creator and their purpose. Now, people have talked about Loretta's faith, but it was kind of neat to just cap it off with that. And it was just that was probably the most meaningful thing to me of the whole evening.
Very cool.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
That's really neat, and I'm glad that you were able to go to that. So very cool. But as I called Kerry last night, and we were pondering the fact that he was going to be out late, and I was going to be out most of the night. We're like, this should be a real interesting show.
We're going to be acting like we're hungover and need one of us drink. How about that?
We're going to be all sleepy.
We are not hungover.
But anyway, very good. Well, I'm not, but there you go.
Well,
I'm going to just be honest with you. No, I'm not.
You know what? I'm going to laugh and tell you.
But you can.
I have a story that I've told, and I'm not going to tell it on the radio because it's probably not appropriate. But I tell about all the different things I tried when I was 12 years old.
Sure.
And beer and my old Kentucky home were two of those things, and I've not had either since. I've occasionally go someplace and people serve wine, but I've never been drunk in my life.
Good for you.
And I don't have any desire to be, and I've driven enough of my drunk friends home over the years that it's just like I don't understand why this is so fun, especially when you see them the next day. So I just have never had any desire to do that.
I love that. Well,
of all the things I'm tempted by, that is not one of them. So
well, I think one of the things that I always found intriguing about Trump was that he didn't partake.
Really?
At all?
At all?
No.
Well, good for him.
That's my understanding, is that he did not partake.
Well, he probably did once upon a time in his life. He probably did something really stupid, and then maybe he said, "I'll never do that again."
How funny.
Who knows? Talking
to Senator Kerry Roberts about all the things going on in the world, and I guess you will be hearing a lot about CMAs from me. Probably not as much as you normally would, because if I'm going and working on the show, you were talking about an artist that got up and sang, and you didn't even know who she was. That's one of the things that's always been intriguing for me, getting to help set up the CMAs, or all the sets that we would do for people I've never heard of, and they're big, huge, country artists, and I'm like, I don't even know who that is, and then I'll watch the show the next time, still don't know who that is. And one of the coolest things too, though, is to see some of these guys that their careers start up. And Thomas Rhett is one that went to school with my kids, and so my kids play football with him. We've known him forever, and so just so cool, so incredibly cool to see his career.
Who?
TR.
No, I'm just kidding you.
I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? And just to watch his career has been fun. And we've worked on
one I know who he is.
Yeah, we got to work on some of his sets and stuff, and just remembering, him as a kid. It was just neat, because he went to Madison Church of Christ for a long time.
Now that I could not have told you, and I didn't know that he went to school with your kids.
Oh yeah, so. He graduated from Good Pasture. I think he's 2 years older than my twins.
Oh, I don't know anything about his background. I just
he's a Good Pasture graduate.
So. How about that?
And his bride as well. So
well, I'll tell you this: for anybody listening. I'm not, you don't have to hook me up with the CMAs, but if it's the Dove Awards or something like that, I would probably know who those people are, and I would love to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got any connections there?
I know Stephen Curtis Chapman, but only just, kind of And he and I grew up in the same area. His dad was one of my guitar teachers.
Really?
I've had guitar lessons from Stephen Curtis Chapman, and I still can't play worth of whip. But we grew up in he was more. They had a store, a place that they taught guitar in Mayfield at one point.
Yeah.
And they had one there and they had one in Paducah, and so I took there in Mayfield. And there was a couple of times that his dad, Herb, couldn't do the lesson, and Steve gave me my lesson.
No
Steve
way.
and I were the same age. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember once upon a time we had these little plastic things about this big around? They were really thin. You put them in a machine, they played music. Do you remember
You
those?
mean CDs?
Yeah, CDs.
Yeah.
So we had I don't know which one it was, but if you said the name, I'd probably know. But our kids loved that. And, wore it out. Yeah. Yeah, wore it out.
Probably Diving In.
Yeah, Diving In, that's it. Yep.
That was fabulous. That was just huge.
That, I think
that album.
Evan probably knows
Yeah.
every word of every note of every song of whatever.
I don't know for sure, but I would think that'd have to be one of his biggest things.
It's really good.
I'm just jump down the Stephen Curtis Chapman rabbit hole for a second. So some of the stuff that I like to write, right?
Yeah.
And I love to write about Christian evidence and those kinds of things. And I was writing a particular piece one time, and I had heard, have you ever seen the movie Into the Spear?
Into?
End, E-N-D,
E-N-D.
of the Spear. It's
End
the
of
story
the Spear.
about
No.
them, and I can't recall the missionaries' names right now, but Steve Saint, it was his dad, Steve Saint's father, was a missionary whenever he was a child, and I'm wanting to say it was in the 50s, and they were in some jungle, and the missionary team went out to work with the natives there. And while they had been, getting and going along really well, and they went to see them one day, and they turned on them and killed them all. And so they found the missionary team. I was saying it was like 5 men, all murdered by this tribe. And the families all came back except for Steve Saint's aunt. She stayed there, or went back, and they ended up, bringing Jesus to the tribe and just really doing a wonderful mission work there. Steve Saint went back and joined them later as he got older, met the man who was one of the ones who killed his father, and they began this great relationship. Well, Stephen Curtis Chapman is very close friends with Steve Saint. They were filming something. If you watch the movie Into the Spear, there's this scene where you see the sky open up as they're killing these missionaries. It's almost like the heavens open up, right? And you think, oh, that's just theatrics. Well, no. At the end, if you read the book, at the very end, it talks about how that, and I forget the tribesman's name. At one point, I could have told you who it was. But anyway, that he witnessed something when they were killing the missionary's father. And that he said that's when we saw the strangers in the sky. And so they witnessed that. And Stephen Curtis Chapman was there in the jungle with them when the tribesmen said that to Steve Saint. And so I called Stephen and talked to him about it and said, did that really happen? He was like, yeah, it really did. The tribesmen had no idea that what we were talking about. And he started saying that's when we saw the strangers in this, or the, there was another word for it, but we saw them in the sky, and we knew we had done something very bad. And he also said we heard this music that was music that Steve had written way after the fact. He goes, we heard this music. It's just a crazy story. But I mean, Stephen, I talked to him about that. So he's got so many cool stuff. He's got so many cool stories. But yeah.
So it has a Wikipedia page.
The End of the Spear does? Yeah. Of course it does.
And I just looked it up. And, okay, so here's one you probably haven't heard in a while. So Stephen Curtis Chapman does one of the songs in there, and also Barlow Girl. Barlow Girl, do you remember
Really?
that?
I remember Barlow Girl, yeah.
I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah,
but,
for the sake of the call, isn't it? For
I don't remember.
I don't, you mean in the movie itself?
Yeah.
But that's, if you read the story of Steve Saint and his father and all of that, and read the entire, it is amazing. It is an amazing story. And I've written some about it. I don't know where, but I've got some things I've written about it. But it's fascinating. And it's just, it's a signs and wonder thing.
You can see it free with ads on Amazon.
Well, there you go.
There you
go watch it.
Amazon
Go
Prime.
watch Into the
if you
Spear.
Want to,
And when you
I just confessed to having Amazon Prime. Should I have done that?
I have it too.
Okay.
But the thing is, when you see that really thing, whenever the missionaries are being killed, and you see the light and all that, and it seems like theatrics. No, oh, I wish I could think of the tribesman's name, but he truly he says they saw something. They saw like in the Bible where it says Stephen saw the heavens open. It sounds, what he describes sounds very similar to that.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. It is just fascinating. But anyway, talking with Senator Kerry Roberts, and you know what? It's 25 after, and I haven't done any commercials. I want to remind you now at Veterans Motorplex. Number one, if you want to see what's going on at Veterans Motorplex, the best way to do that is to look up Highland Rim Speedway on social media. They kept the Highland Rim Speedway page because it had thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, and they just changed the name. And so you'll see the banner that says Veterans Motorplex, the old Highland Rim Speedway Facebook page. And again, that's the location. That's where you're going to find out what's going on. And here's what's going on out there. They had intended to do trunk or treat this past Saturday from race cars. And they had something, I know, wouldn't that be, can you imagine race cars trunk or treat?
That's the ultimate trunk.
Oh,
Wait,
my God.
do race cars have real trunk? I mean, can
I
you
don't know
open the
how
trunk
they're
in a race
doing it.
car?
I don't
Aren't they
really
like
know.
welded shut or something?
I don't know. That's a good question. But the race cars are going to, they were going to do this past Saturday. But because the American 400 was moved to Saturday up in Nashville, they decided to cancel the races because they figured that's where everybody's going to be. And so they are getting back together this Saturday. This coming Saturday, it will be the 5th, November 5th, and they're moving the time up because as we're getting later, I don't know when time changes, but it's coming up very, very soon. And so the grandstands are going to open at 2 p.m. The racing will start at 4 instead of 6, and so they're going to end a little bit earlier. But they're going to have their trunk or treat this coming weekend. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and you can trunk or treat from race cars, y'all. It's going to be awesome, and they've got a great point price for their tickets. $40 will get 6 minor kids and 2 adults in. It is a fabulous deal, and it's so much fun. If you haven't been to the races, you need to go, and I mean, take the kids out for one more hoopla of trunk or treat out of race cars. It's going to be so much fun, and it's at the old Highland Rim Speedway. They are open again at 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. Gates will open early this time, 2 p.m. Racing will start at 4. They'll get done a little bit earlier, but that's going to be what's going to be so much fun. Is you're going to have an opportunity to trunk or treat from race cars. They're going to have Pro 4s and Baby Grands are going to be added to the schedule as well. It's going to be a great weekend for racing at Veterans Motorplex. And remember, their season ends at the end of November. So if you want to go to the races this season, you better get out there. And when you do, please always let them know. That U-turn, Cynthia. I'm talking with my friend, Mr. Kerry Roberts, Senator Kerry Roberts. He is in the house, and we appreciate him coming by. He is going to make this visit once a month. Now, he's the one who got me in doing this radio thing every day. But he used to do a show on Mondays here. For how long did you do that? That went on for a while.
Long enough to get repeatedly in trouble with being overly opinionated on the things that I said. How about that for
And he said, okay, I got to quit. And
I just got tired of I just got tired of all the
stuff,
hateful, responses, and it's not worth it. Well, there's a verse in Proverbs that says, there are plenty of verses in Proverbs that say a lot of things, but I got to think about this one or I'll say it wrong. But basically, I'm going to say it backwards.
Okay, just look it up. He's going to look it up.
So there's a verse in Proverbs that just really speaks to the political climate that we're in and what you probably should or should not say. But it's Proverbs 30, verse 33, and it says, as the beating of cream yields butter, obviously, and striking the nose causes bleeding, obvious, so stirring up anger causes quarrels.
Okay.
So here we are in a world today where there are a lot of people that are angry. And the problem is we have no count to 10 anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have cell phones. We all have Twitter. We all have social media. We all have something, an iPad, and we see something that we don't like, and the first thing that we do, especially politicians, the first thing they do is they rush to their keyboard and they don't count to 10 before they say
They
it.
want to trend. They want to be out there.
They want to trend.
No publicity is bad publicity. I've heard
Well,
that my whole life.
Let me tell you, Elon Musk just overpaid for
Twitter.
And if you look at who's on Twitter, I mean, who drives Twitter, right? Politicians who think their opinion is what everybody needs to hear, celebrities who think that everybody needs to know what they're wearing today, and social media influencers who are just in it for the likes. And so is that really a discourse that's taking place? No. And so we have this thing where people just launch and they're angry, admittedly, and I understand why they're angry, but it's like this situation in Humphreys County from last week where some lady is upset that her kid came home with a Bible from school. Okay, I'm sorry. Are you as equally upset about your kid seeing a book at the school library that shows that illustrates two boys having sex with each other? Are you upset about that? Because they can go check that book out too. Maybe, hopefully not at Humphreys County, but in school districts across America. Pornography that you go to jail for, if it was two 12-year-old boys actually pictured, you go to jail for 7 years, probably in Tennessee.
Yep.
But if you draw it, and you say, well, the context of this is we're teaching young boys that it's okay to be gay, then it's protected by the First Amendment.
It's insane.
And you've got parents appearing at school board meetings across America defending this stuff, while at the same time you got a parent upset that a kid came home with a Bible. Now you ask most principals and most teachers what these kids need more of. Do they need more pornography? And look at what we call it. We call it, sex positive. We got all these different ways of saying it so that we don't call it what it is. Or do they need to know a little bit about wisdom literature? What gets lost in all this is, and we've said, and you know this, separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. It never was in the Constitution. It was never intended to be in the Constitution. And ask yourself this: why is it until the 1940s, 50s, 60s, the Bible was used as a textbook in public schools?
Yep.
Why? Why was that? What changed?
Because it was,
what changed is five attorneys in black robes said, you can't do this. Now, at the time they said it, I don't know how many million people were in America, but you know what? That is not a comment the founders would have said. Not the founders who prayed during their deliberations of the United States Constitution, who took breaks to pray, who had other writings that clearly indicate their desire to seek divine guidance. The same people who, as we've said on many times, on Washington's inauguration on April 30th of 1789, voted to have church services to dedicate the nation to God. We don't teach this in schools anymore. No one in a school will teach George Washington's inaugural address because of his three very references to God and the providence of God, and the fact that if you teach about his inaugural address, you got to teach about the context. So there they are on Wall Street in southern Manhattan. The old Federal Hall is not there anymore, and they do all this stuff. He goes out. They got to find. He's taken the oath of office, and they can't find a Bible. So there's this flurry of activity trying to find a Bible for him. So when he takes the oath of office, he can put his hand on a Bible. So then he gives a speech They retire inside. They do some of their business, and then they adjourn. They take a break to walk up Wall Street to St. Paul's, where they consecrate the nation to God. Mm-hmm. Now, so if you teach his inaugural address, then you got to teach context. If you teach context, you find out the greatest collection of constitutional experts ever in the United States Congress voted to have church services. Now, if you've got a bias against religion, then you're choking on that, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
And so, you know, the fact that the Constitution says that, you know, the federal government is not going to respect a religion. What? Know the context. What was their paradigm? Mm-hmm. Were we talking about, you know, all the different religions in the world? No, it was a Christian paradigm. They didn't want to get into denominational wars. That's a great way of saying it. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to decide whether it was the Presbyterians or the Methodists or the Baptists. And all of these Ivy League educated attorneys, who, by the way, seem to forget that their schools started as divinity schools.
That's what blows my mind.
There was, if you know the history of America, there was a paradigm that there is a God, that God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to die for our sins, and that we acknowledge that, we accept that, we consider the work on this world to be within the context of that. They didn't shy away from it, and it's like anything, you know, some of them were really serious about it, some of them were not. They're just men. Some of them were really into it, some of them were not. And that's the way it is. But for people to revise our history, to say, well, they were, you know, polytheistic. Why do you say that? Because they don't understand the context. I mean, Washington was a great example. Washington had more names for God. It's just the way they spoke, the way they wrote, the way they did their speeches. It was, you know, it was one God. It was monotheism. It wasn't polytheism. And, you know, Washington got baptized at some point in his life, and, you know, people don't want to talk about that either. There's so much they don't want to talk about. Why? Because they reject God. They reject religion. And they're trying to do everything in their power to say it didn't exist. And it did. Mm-hmm. It did. So you look at all the problems we have today. Human trafficking. Who thinks it's right to traffic young women and children? Evil people do.
That's
okay?
Right.
Why does a grown man feel the need to put on fake, can we say on the fake, you know, and fishnet stockings and perform in front of children? Why do we think that's okay? Why are parents taking their children to stuff like this? What are you wanting to do? I mean, my parents took me to Bible school. How about you? Did your parents ever take you to a bar?
Oh, dear God, no.
A bar a bar that's 18 or older is going to open for lunch today to have an all ages drag queen show. Mm-hmm. And you know, parents are lined up with their children to show them that. Why are they doing that? And someone's saying, well, Kerry, you're being judgmental. I'm saying, no. What I'm doing is I'm being philosophical for a moment, right? I'm looking at the state of where we are in society today. And I'm asking the fundamental question. Do people who love Jesus Christ, people who seek to live a holy life, do they do these things that steal from others, that destroy other people's property, that kill other people? No, they don't. That's a function of evil. And you know, I guess as I've gotten older in my life, I'm just, you know, this is like social media. Why start a quarrel? Why be angry and start a quarrel? And I think, you know, if I'm going to respond to that, I told my wife, I'm going to write something thoughtful that's not angry, that doesn't start a quarrel, that just says, here's why I don't have a problem with that, or here's, you know, the history of why this ought to be okay. They weren't trying to convert someone. They just had Bibles that somebody had left, and they said, you can take one if you want one. Mm-hmm.
And the child, obviously, you know, and that's probably one of the things, if you think about, we're talking about this, and you said it was in Humphreys County, a child came home with the Bible, and the parents upset. Yeah. Okay, so if they were given to them and they said, would you like to have one? That's something that maybe that little one is thinking, there's got to be more. you know, that they want to know more about. I think that a lot of this turning away is going to be part of stoking their revival, because so many
Sure it is. Yeah.
are
Pendulum swing.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, and you've got so much hopelessness out there.
Hey,
And
let me just tell you something. Let me tell you. You know what gender affirming care is? Teaching your children about Jesus.
oh, there you go. Very good.
You
Very
know,
good.
that's we live in an upside down world where we are so smart, we are stupid.
Well, there, I think
I
that's
mean,
in
there's a
Scripture.
lot of
in
knowledge.
their wisdom, they become fools.
Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge, but
Yeah.
there's just no wisdom.
Yeah.
And there's no common sense. And I just, and look, I fully understand that this is really important. I wish people could see what I'm showing you right now. You know what? Look, there's a range that people have opinions, and that's fine, right? That's fine. Okay. And I've used this example with church a lot. We get upset with, imagine people on a continuum. We get upset with the people that we're standing shoulder to shoulder to because they don't think like we think. And yet, you know, evil is in another room, right? That's how far away they are from us. So there's a range where we ought to just say, you know what, if that's what you think and that's the way you want to live your life, have at it. But there's a larger range that we put boundaries on. And you know, the way we are constituted, our Constitution is the cornerstone of law in the land. And that is the beginning of putting boundaries on human behavior. And you know, you can't kill, right? You can't, there's a lot of things you can't do. And so, you know, the idea is we are protecting your liberty by telling other people what they cannot do. And so we've always accepted the idea that we can put limits on human behavior. And part of that freedom is the freedom for people to do something that's stupid. But part of self-governance is you cannot self-govern if you don't have moral people. And that was one of the dilemmas prior to, you know, Washington becoming president, and the Constitutional Convention was this national soul searching of whether or not we are moral enough to govern ourselves. And, you know, a lot of people wanted Washington to be the king. Why? Because they saw him as a man who was just, a man who was wise, a man who would make a good king, who would be benevolent in his rule. And there's a lot of people that ask a legitimate question: are we good enough to self-govern? Do we have high enough you know, values, integrity, morality? And you know, and we're all just human, and we all struggle, and it takes you know, an exceptional person to be a king, or you get stuck with a bad king, right? But I don't know. I hope revival is in the air, and I wish the cynics or critics who reject the notion of a revival would stop and understand what it means, because you know, what more than anything else, what a revival means is, it means, you know what, God, I'm done trying to do things my way. I'm going to do things your way. I'm tired of forging ahead in life without any purpose, without any knowledge of who created me, why I was created, what I'm supposed to do here. And I'm going to start seeking that out. It just stands to reason, if you were made, that you would want to know who made you and why they made you. And that's why, you know, we go back to gender affirming care. I mean, sadly, what no one wants to talk about, and this is tragic, terribly tragic, is everybody talks about the suicide rate of transgender children. They don't talk about the suicide rate of post-transition, you know, or people who regret it, and in irreversible damage. Abigail Schreier, a liberal reporter, Ivy League educated, one of the best books on the topic there is, Irreversible Damage, the Transgender Craze That is Seducing Our Girls. Read the book. It's a great book. It's eye-opening when you see how much this is driven by TikTok, Tumblr, social media. I mean, come on, is it really gender affirming care for your 12-year-old to read something on Tumblr and come home and say, I have decided I want to be a boy, and you rush out to take them to Vanderbilt so they can start getting puberty blockers? I mean,
well, and you know, we've talked about this before. The blog I wrote about this because I was such I was one of those young women that just thought I should have been a boy and all that until I got up. I mean, in middle school, and
what would have happened to you today?
Oh dear, they would have probably
you would have been sucked right in.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you would have been recruited.
There's no telling, and I don't know. Came from such a very strong faith background that my mom and daddy had put a wall up around me. They'd have been like, "You get out of here." I mean, the country, they don't mess around. So they would have stood toe to toe. They just wouldn't have tolerated it, I don't think. But
you see what happens now is a parent who says, "I want to put my child in therapy." Child services will come in some states, not Tennessee, thankfully, and they'll take the child out of the home.
Yeah.
Because in some states, that's considered child abuse.
If you're trying to change the child.
I'm just sitting here thinking from a common sense standpoint, don't you think before you go under the knife that you would want to try therapy first?
Well, yeah.
I think I would. I mean, so.
Well, and what you said about it being a TikTok trend, the reason why I sat down and wrote the piece I did that went so viral back during the Bruce Jenner stuff was because of something my niece said. When we had encountered a cousin that was obviously going through something and had a friend with him, and we were like, we didn't understand what was going on. And Lexus said, "Oh, that's just the gender trend. That's just the trend." And she called it a trend. And I thought, oh dear God, a trend that you can't take to Goodwill.
But the argument, but the argument is you can reverse it, and that's just that's where voices need to speak up. And look, let's be perfectly clear: if you're 18 or older, and this is what you want to do,
it's your business.
It's your business. We are talking about here, or we're talking about children. And we're talking about children who just get rushed into, and I tell you, as a legislator, and we're hearing from people who do this, we're hearing from people who are opposed to it. When I say do it, where Vanderbilt's been in the news because they have a clinic there where they've done this, and here's what's painfully obvious, even from talking to the people who advocate for this, there is not there is an acknowledgement when you press them, there's an acknowledgement that these kids aren't getting therapy first. It's a rubber stamp. It's like,
it's horrifying.
This is why it's self-diagnosis, and we'll put you to the front of the line.
We need to probably go ahead and take a break. I'm talking with Senator Kerry Roberts.
And we'll change the subject because
we've gotten on this the last couple of times that you've been in, and it's hard not to because of the way the news goes. And we both are very passionate about it. But we'll slide over into another topic. And if you have any questions for the senator, be sure and send those in. And he's going to come in once a month and address your issues and anything that you have that you want to talk to him about. And I want to talk to you about my friends Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. They are great friends and a great source of knowledge in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, don't matter what side of the table you're on, they are specialists at what they do. They're up in Cross Plains. They specialize in Robertson County properties, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line up in Kentucky. Barry is a marketer, came to the team as a vice president of a media marketing company, and has so much knowledge. He is a Zillow certified photographer, licensed insured drone pilot, does a 360-degree virtual reality home tour. We'll get you up on realtor.com, all the things that when people are flipping through the listings, they're going to say, oh, that looks like a great property, because he's going to take care of it and get it right. Now, Rebecca's been at this a long time, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist, and that just means she knows how to cross every T and dot every I to make sure you're properly represented as well. Great friends. If you want to give them a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. You will connect with them as well at sellwithbecky.com or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. And when you contact them, Senator Kerry Roberts getting some encouragement from Miss Terry Schrum appreciate the conversation.
Terry, I am so sorry. You sent me a text message when I was out of town. I've not responded to you yet.
Better get back in touch with her. She's a good one.
Okay, yes, and yes, I guess. For the constitutional amendments, yeah.
Well, yeah. And then Susie Allen.
And if we need to talk about that, we'll talk about that.
And Susie Allen talks about decisions, choices, and options.
Oh, what a great program.
It is an amazing program. And they walked away from the state grant because they would not cave into the gender issues, as a matter of fact.
Wait, the state?
Oh,
a state grant?
Yeah, they
or
had
a federal
state,
grant, or was it federal money passed through the state?
They had a grant that they used, and then there became some issues where you had to teach this gender stuff, and they're like, no, thank you, and they stepped away from it.
Okay.
Yeah, they turned it down.
Susie,
They've got an event November 6th at Springfield Baptist.
Right, and we're going to be out of town. So Susie.
Susie says it's state. Yeah.
Okay, Susie, you enjoy Call Janet, and let's. So this is my busy season so we're part-time and I've got another job.
Right.
And we all do, unless you're independently wealthy and retired, and I am neither. So between September 15 and December 15, I got back into teaching. I teach CPAs, continuing professional education, so I do a lot of traveling. And I'm done with that on December 15th. So Susie, let's plan on getting together with you and Joy and talk about this, and let's talk about the constitutional amendments real quick.
Okay.
And because Terry's
talking about.
Yeah, she had texted me asking me that, and I was out of town, and then I get so many text messages if I don't scroll back. Somebody needs and I've got an Android. Maybe you can do this on iPhone, but you can't, to my knowledge, sort for unread messages. I'm not aware of doing that. That would be a great little app for somebody to come up with.
I can tell. I can flip back through mine and
you can flip back. Yeah, scroll. But then, sometimes when you scroll, you inadvertently delete or archive or something like that. But anyway, so we've got 4 constitutional amendments on the ballot when you go to vote. The first one is about making Tennessee a right to work state. Let me just cut through all the BS, okay? Cut through all the BS. Here's what this is about. You can't force someone to join a union to work someplace. So you tell me, is that pro-business, is that pro-worker, is that pro-union? Is it, wait. Is it anti-business, anti-union, anti-worker? However you want to say this, what the summary of it is, you're saying there's a right enshrined in the Constitution that says, if I go to work for a company and I don't want to join the union, I don't have to.
Right.
If my union gives money to people that don't stand for my values, so if my union, that I would otherwise join gives money to Planned Parenthood or the Democratic Party or anything that I don't want to do, or the Republican Party, whatever it is, if I don't want to be a part of that, I cannot be penalized because I choose not to join the union. Now, do I still have a right to join it? Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, so what's the problem? Well, the union doesn't like it because they like it when they can bully people into joining. So all these ads against it are funded by who? Democrats and the union. Okay? So there you go. That's that one. That's an easy yes. And in fact, it's already the way it is in Tennessee. It just enshrines it in the Constitution. The second one is about succession of power. What happens if the governor is incapacitated, and how does all that work? You can read through it. If I was waving my magic wand, I probably would have done that differently. All these things start, by the way, with the General Assembly. We vote on them. We vote on them 4 different times, and I voted yes on that one. But I wish we could have done it different. But I'm not the one who did it, so it is what it is, and that is yes. That's fine as far as I'm concerned. The third one I think is about slavery. And it's just rewording the Constitution. It's a little bit of a stretch to say that you could interpret the Constitution as to say that you could enslave someone who's in a penal institution. I don't read it that way, but I get the point. The senator that brought that, her argument was, we're rewording this to make it abundantly clear that slavery is not permissible in Tennessee. And I'm fine with that. I just didn't agree with the original premise that you could interpret the Constitution to say you could have slavery, but that's fine. That's a yes. And then the last one is there's a provision in the Constitution that says you can't be a minister and serve in the General Assembly. Forgive me, I don't remember all the history, but courts have overruled that. We have ministers who serve in the General Assembly, and it's just kind of cleaning up the Constitution. And so to me, I say it's yes, 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 I guess, because I don't see any reason to vote no on any of them. Number one, I feel very strongly about, and the other three are more yes than they are no. There's no reason not to, and different people have different feelings on how strong they feel. Now, that is the conservative position. I'm sure that, and by the way, the one about slavery was brought by a Democrat, and I think some people just kind of look at it and say, wait, is there more to this? No, there's really not. Just take it at face value. In fact, on all four of them, there's nothing hidden there. It's just face value. It really is face value. Don't try to read anything into it. It is what it is. There's no code words or secret language. So yes, 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 yes on those four.
You know, the thing that stands out to me as you were kind of reviewing all of that is how you're like, okay, we are a right to work state, but we want to put it into the Constitution. Yeah. It's like, it seems to me like there's something in the Constitution about marriage too.
Yeah, marriage is between a man and a woman.
I know, in Tennessee. And so you have to wonder that if states' rights really matter, and if any of this really has the.
Let me tell you, when Clarence Thomas. Well, no, Clarence Thomas.
That one gets me.
The Obergefell ruling is problematic on a lot of levels legally, whether you are for or against gay marriage. Okay, so if you just set aside the issue and get into the legal arguments, look, here's the thing. Not every member of the Supreme Court is a crackerjack constitutional expert.
No.
And
really?
And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. And I love Cracker Jack. You remember Cracker Jacks? Did they still make those?
Of course they do.
Yeah, I love those. They were awesome. It's like a caramel corn with peanuts, right?
Absolutely.
And so I say that meaning just so no one's misinterpreting what I'm saying here. You know, it's like the best, right? That's the best. So they don't all fall into that category. That doesn't mean they're bad, but they're not all how about I say it this way? They're not all the sharpest tool in the drawer. How about that one?
And we're talking about our
sharpest knife in the drawer.
Folks that sit on the courts. And,
yeah, so stop and think about it.
It is what it is.
The Supreme Court started out in the Constitution with they've got a box to sit in just like the federal government does. You know, we talk about enumerated powers, and they've expanded their abilities over the years, and and what they've done is they've expanded their ability in that they go through what's called judicial review, and they basically legislate from the bench. Do. So when they come along and say, well, Obergefell isn't Constitution, did they rewrite the law in Tennessee? No. Did they rewrite the Constitution in Tennessee? No. Well, somebody says, well, the Supremacy Clause and all this other kind of stuff. Well, I'm sorry, but we've got three different branches of government, and if you're saying that the judicial branch gets to be the legislative branch, then we have an issue with separation of powers.
Yes,
so
we do.
Clarence Thomas gets this. Alito gets this. You know, you have people on the court that understand this, and you know, when Roe versus Wade was overturned, you know, if you get past all of the emotional reaction to that, the fundamental question was, were they what were they ruling about? Were they ruling about abortion itself, or were they ruling about the rule of law? And ding, ding. I mean, it was a terrible. I mean, even the most ardent of abortion advocates would argue or would tell you that it was a terrible ruling back in the day. Yeah. And terrible rulings need to get revisited. Yep. And wrap it up. Yeah. So.
Let me go ahead and talk about Corbin Creek, and then we'll come back and let the Senator wrap it up. Senator Kerry Roberts is going to be visiting with us once a month now, and we're very excited about that. And I'm also very excited to tell you all about the things going on at Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center. Amy was in here last week talking about the sampler. She's part of the team that brings us the Christmas sampler. That's going to be going on this weekend, so get ready for that. And if you want more information about that, just if you find Amy, talk to her. But now, as far as what's going on with Corbin Creek, Creek. They have changed their hours a little bit because of the colder weather. They're open now Monday through Saturday, 10 to 4, and then Sunday from 1 to 4. You can get by there and see all kinds of wonderful things, wonderful gift ideas. They've got these all kinds of handmade little bowl cozies. If you like soup in the wintertime, you need one of these so you can take your soup out of the microwave and not burn your hands. They've got handmade aprons and things like that you're going to absolutely love for Christmas gifts and somebody you love. And they've got, all their CBD products, just fabulous. If you're somebody like me that has inflammation problems and arthritic problems, and then they've also got all these great salves that are good for pain, bug bites, all kinds of wonderful things happening at Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center. And did you know they also schedule and do Christmas decorations for you? November's already booked. So if you want them to come out and help you with your Christmas decorations, you better get on the phone and give them a call and talk to them at 615-384-3185, 615-384-3185, or you can go by and see them at 4920 Highway 161 in Springfield. And when you see my friend Amy, be sure and tell her that you turn essential. And again, you'll see her at the Christmas sampler. She says she'll have on a black apron, and you'll be able to find her if you have any questions about anything going on with the sampler as well. Wrap it up for us, Senator.
We need to make notes about what we talk about. So next month, it's all fresh content.
There you go.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's the problem with doing this once a month is I don't remember what we talked about.
Well, it's
a month
hard
ago.
not to get off on the gender stuff because it's so prevalent. And so we didn't talk about Bobby Davis this week. Did you hear his sermon this weekend? He's always good. He's talking about Holy Spirit stuff this weekend. So good.
I missed the last two, and I need to figure out how to get them into iTunes. Are they? I guess
it's a podcast.
He has it on. I never do that. You know what? Okay.
Yeah, you need to get the podcast.
I'm going to be embarrassed and say, I don't podcast, and I need to figure out how to do it on
I'll send you a link.
Android.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
He is so
fabulous.
So good. Yeah.
He's good. He's anointed. He's a good guy. He's a preacher out at Cookeville Life Church. I follow him all the time. Don't miss any of his.
Great one to listen to.
He's fabulous.
And if you like, especially if you just like. If you like common sense, folksy,
I love the guy,
and funny, and
just spirit filled, man. Just spirit filled. He's a good preacher. And we're out of time. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Senator, for joining us. And I hope you will have a fabulous day. Everybody says I say fabulous too much, so I'm gonna have to come up with a better word. But I hope you do have a wonderful day. Hey, happy Halloween! Tomorrow's November. It's time to get ready for Thanksgiving. Oh, and be careful. Watch out for the kiddos out there trick or treating. You know the story. Be safe, y'all. God bless. Have a wonderful day. This is 1100 WSGI.